Now available in paperback and Kindle Unlimited. The Man Crisis. Learn why so many men are struggling to find their way in an increasingly gynocentric world in The Man Crisis. Get your copy of The Man Crisis in paperback and Kindle Unlimited today.
Historical couples in crisis. One of my viewers wanted me to do another installment in the Historical Couples in Crisis series. And for this installment in the Historical Couples in Crisis series, I'm going to be talking about Denise Merrell Williams and her husband Brian Winchester, who conspired to murder Denise's first husband, Mike Williams. Now, in order to understand how this couple became a couple in crisis, you have to understand the person who was a victim and how he became a man in crisis. Now, Jerry Michael, or Mike Williams, was the son of a Greyhound bus driver and a mother who was a daycare provider. And with that mother and father, those two parents, they raised him and his brother Nick in a double-wide trailer, and instead of building a house they wanted to build for their futures by sending the boys to North Florida Christian High School by working days on these jobs and then working nights at a supermarket so these boys could attend North Florida Christian High School. Now at North Florida Christian High School, Mike excelled, serving as the student council president, playing football, and was active in the Key Club. And at the age of 15, he began duck hunting as a hobby, and also met, at 15 years old, fellow student Denise Merrell, who would eventually become his wife. Now, after attending North Florida Christian High School, Jerry Michael, or Mike Williams, attended Florida State University, where he majored in political science and urban planning, and did so well at school that he eventually wound up getting a job before graduation at Ketchum Appraisal as a property appraiser. And he was a very hard worker, looking to try to build a family and build on everything that his family sacrificed by going out here and marrying Denise Merrell in 1994, and sometimes would go duck hunting before he went to bed and go duck hunting in the morning. But as he was looking to build and pursue his hobby of duck hunting, he was building his career up, and eventually by 1999, he was making over $200,000 a year and had made enough money to go and surpass his family that started out in a double-wide trailer by buying a small upscale subdivision home in the east side of the city. And in 1999, Mike Williams' only child, a daughter, was born, and he was dedicated to giving his daughter a high quality of life. And as he was looking to give his daughter a high quality of life, Mike Williams looked to, again, work hard and conscientiously. But in that year, in 1999, his father died, and when his father died, that's when Mike Williams decided to go and think about the future of his family by getting a $1 million life insurance policy through Brian Winchester, a childhood acquaintance of Denise Merrell, who had become best friends with her husband. Now that right there was a red flag as related to the entire relationship with Mike Williams and Denise Merrell, because when a guy says that he's a woman's best friend, chances are she ain't just a friend, and chances are he's basically slipping her some of that carbon rod into her atomic waste reactor and participating in some nuclear fusion. And basically what was happening here with Denise Merrell is she was basically participating in hypergamy, like I talk about in my book, The Woman Crisis. And as she was looking to participate in hypergamy, looking to monkey branch to what she believed to be a higher status man in this insurance salesman, Brian Winchester, she thought that she could go out here and get herself on a road to wealth by getting involved with this man as related to this, buying this insurance policy. And this basically would make it where she would be able to have this insurance, and that basically started to lay the foundations for the plan to take the life of Jerry Michael Mike Williams. that's basically what laid the plan for this murder. Now, Mike Williams wanted to take care of his family and wanted to take a year off and wanted to have a plan to do this. But the whole thing is because he was trying to console his mother and take care of his mother the way a man is supposed to. Unfortunately, when it came to Mike Williams, while he was a man of good character, he was surrounded by other people who were not of good character, mainly his treacherous, hypergamous wife, and her just a friend, side dude. And as the side dude and his wife basically were looking to have their own relationship, they were looking to try to go and try to end his life. Now, Mike wanted to continue building his family and have another child, but the whole thing is that Denise basically had other plans. She wanted to get with this other man, and that's what basically laid the plan out for this murder. Now, when it comes to Brian Winchester, he's a textbook beta male, like I talk about in my book, The Man Crisis, and he's definitely a simp, like I talk about in my book, Stop Simping, Why Men Don't Need Finance to Get Romance. Because when it comes to these simps out here, again, simps don't come through the front door. No, they like to come in sideways. I have a whole chapter on this where they talk about being your friend and being your best friend, but they want to come in the side door of another man's relationship in an effort to get at a woman because they don't have the courage to go face to face and be transparent with a woman. And this guy, again, basically wanted to go through the side door, hoping to be the side dude and hoping that as he was able to get into this relationship, he could get this woman and also gain access to Mike Williams' resources and look to get access through those resources, because once he saw him buy that $1 million life insurance policy, he thought he could go again be on Easy Street living off this woman. That was the plan he had in the secret world, because a lot of times with beta males, they live in a place I call the secret world, where they basically, this is the place where they feel safe about expressing their natural masculinity and natural sexuality, and they don't really see things the way we do in the real world clearly. No, what they do is live in a rose-colored reality, and as they live in this rose-colored reality, what they do is create these grand plans to go out here and be able to have the ideal life that they want. But everything that they do, because everything is distorted, they just are just seeing everything distorted, because everything in their life is about doing evil. And again, these guys basically want to do dirt in order to get what they want, and that's what happened here. He was having, I believe, an affair with Denise Williams, and then persuaded Mike to go duck hunting in December 16th, 2000. And after he went duck hunting on December 16th, 2000, Mike Williams was never seen again, and never seen again. And after a long search, people didn't know what happened to Mike Williams' body. I mean, people didn't know what happened, and eventually he was declared legally dead after investigations. And eventually what happened was that Denise got the money from the insurance, and she then eventually, 5 years later, married Brian Winchester. And after Denise Williams wound up marrying Brian Winchester, that's where Denise thought she was going to go on to happily ever after with Brian Winchester. Unfortunately, she wasn't going to be able to go to happily ever after with Brian Winchester because he was a beta male. And because he was a beta male, he wasn't in love with Denise Williams. No, he was in love with the fantasy he created regarding Denise Williams. And even worse, he had created this fantasy regarding Denise Williams in the place called the Secret World. So Brian Winchester did not see Denise Williams as an actual person. No, he didn't see her as an actual person. He just saw her as a fantasy in his rose-colored reality. And in that rose-colored reality that a beta male has, people aren't people. They are just objects as related to their fantasies. And as they become fantasies, what happens with these individuals? These individuals don't see a person as a human being. And with Brian Winchester, he basically saw Denise as a sexual object for him to participate in his fantasies, and eventually he wound up becoming addicted to sex so to the point where he couldn't even commit to the relationship, and that relationship wound up deteriorating to the point in 2012, which wasn't that long for their marriage, because their marriage really didn't last that long, and their marriage wound up falling apart. And as it wound up falling apart, they eventually wound up separating, and then due to Brian Winchester's sexual addiction, because he didn't see, again, her as a person, and he wanted to try to oppose this divorce, because he wanted to keep this separation, because he wanted to keep the relationship together so he could keep his secrets and be a part of the secret world. Now, this entire relationship started to further wind up deteriorating to the point where Denise wound up filing for divorce in 2015. And as he opposed the divorce, he was forced to comply. And eventually, this basically led to Brian going from being a person who worked with her in the conspiring to murder Mike Williams to him making her into another enemy. And this making her into an enemy basically led to Brian Winchester eventually things deteriorating between them to the point where things got hostile. And the day that they were supposed to have an appraisal done with the court, Denise was supposed to meet him at her job at Florida State University, and then what happened was Brian wound up kidnapping her on the way to her job. And then as he kidnapped her, he basically wound up again taking her phone away when he ambushed her in her car, and then he showed her a gun, and she wound up forced to comply to him. And that's where he wound up taking her to a place, and then talked about how he was going to kill himself. And he didn't want the divorce, and he didn't want the divorce basically because what he wanted to do is have a smooth world where on the outside he could be the insurance salesman and the dedicated husband, but in actuality he would be in the secret world this sexual deviant. But because his world got disrupted by Denise basically wanting to leave, what he did was just he wound up having his whole reality shattered, and this is what led to Brian Winchester looking to kidnap Denise. And as he kidnapped Denise, things just went haywire, and he basically looked to kidnap her, and then eventually he wound up leaving, and eventually he asked her to not tell the police about what happened, but then she went straight to the police. And then after she went to the police, this is where everything just fell apart for Denise and Brian Winchester, because then this is where Denise decided to flip Brian Winchester. She decided to flip him by talking about how she possibly knew about the murder of a guy 12 to 15 years ago, and this basically led to Brian Winchester being arrested not only for that kidnapping of Denise, but he was also, while he was in custody, Brian Winchester wound up eventually winding up again confessing to this crime. And eventually what happened in 2018 is that they had a trial for the whole situation for Denise Williams as related to her conspiring to commit the murder of Mike Williams. And as related to this whole trial, with both of them, what happened to them is that what happened to Brian Winchester, the simp in this situation, is he basically wound up getting life in prison, where he is right now, getting turned out by Bubba, Tiny, Roscoe, Big Dave, Melvin, and Mr. Sprinkles, being traded for Little Debbie snack cakes, ramen noodles, packets of Crystal Light lemonade, packets of Crystal Light tea, off-brand fruit punch, off-brand lemon lime drink, off-brand orange drink, off-brand lemonade, off-brand Oreo cookies, off-brand duplex cookies, off-brand vanilla cookies, off-brand vanilla wafers, off-brand ginger snaps, Hunt snack pack puddings, Kit Kat candy bars, Hershey's Mr. Good bars, off-brand apple juice, and Fritos chips, prison chips, packets of soy sauce, packets of beef, packets of tuna, and other assorted items in the commissary. And right now, Brian Winchester, who was wanting to put the carbon rod in the atomic waste reactor of of Mike Williams' wife, Denise Williams, is now possibly getting his backside and front side filled up by Bubba, Tiny, Roscoe, Big Dave, Melvin, and Mr. Sprinkles, and they're basically, again, filling him up with those carbon rods, and then Mr. Sprinkles comes in and sprays the special sauce on the front side and the back side, leaving them like the inside of a glazed donut. And that's what happens to a lot of beta males who go out here and look to come in sideways. That's what happened to Brian Winchester. He went from being an insurance salesman to being assured to dying in prison. And Denise Williams also is suffering in prison right now. Now, she managed to get the first-degree murder conviction overturned in her trial in 2018. She managed to get that conviction overturned, but she's still in jail for 30 years in prison for basically going out and conspiring to commit the murder of her husband. And that's what happened to this couple. They wound up a couple in crisis, and they wound up a couple in crisis basically because you had a beta male who basically saw another man's woman and wanted to come in sideways, and you had a hypergamous woman who wanted to monkey branch over to another man, and their quest to monkey branch and have a relationship with each other wound up falling apart because their greed got the better of them, and as their greed got the better of them, they basically wound up with both of their lives ending in an ignominious fashion. And this whole situation shows how this couple, who came together through dirty deeds, wound up becoming a couple in crisis. Now, if you want to learn about how beta males have dysfunctional mindsets as related to relationships and how this puts them on a paradigm to their lives going nowhere, you can pick up my book, The Man Crisis, on Amazon.com in paperback and Kindle format. You can also find The Man Crisis at other online booksellers like Drafted Digital, Google Play, Barnes & Noble, Walmart, and Target. And if you want to learn more about how hypergamy can get a woman on the road to being in a situation where she winds up with her life turned into a complete mess, you can pick up my book, The Woman Crisis, on Amazon.com in paperback and Kindle format. You can also find The Woman Crisis at other online booksellers like Drafted Digital, Google Play, Barnes & Noble, and you can also find it at big box retailers like Walmart and Target. And if you'd like to see me make more videos about historical men and women in crisis, you can drop a donation for a minimum of $15 to the PayPal or the Cash App by clicking the links in the description box. And if I know something about that couple, I will make that video for you. That's all I have to say for this video. You can comment, rate, and subscribe. Now available in paperback. From the author of the critically acclaimed book, The Man Crisis, comes The Woman Crisis. Learn why so many women have become lost in their quest to have it all in The Woman Crisis. Get your copy of The Woman Crisis in paperback at Amazon.com and online booksellers today. Support Black-owned and Black-operated digital broadcast media. www.niceradionetwork.com. Nice Radio Network, broadcasting 24 hours a day, 7 days a week.